The gunshot shattered the sun-dappled piece of Elmwood Drive. One moment, 12-year-old Lily Chin was walking her German shepherd, Buddy. The next, her world broke apart. Buddy. Her scream was raw as the magnificent dog fell to the pavement. Blood bloomed like a terrible flower across his dark fur. Lily dropped to her knees, her small hands pressing hard against the wound. Her eyes wide with horror, she looked up at Officer Reynolds, who stood with his gun out, smoke curling from a barrel. His partner, Officer Walsh, put a hand on Lily's shoulder as she cried. The dog was aggressive, he said flatly, ignoring her pain. Neither noticed Mr. Petrov watching from his porch across the street. With shaking hands, he dialed a number that would reach across the world to Colonel David Chun, Lily's father, a man whose response would change everything. Lily knew grief too well. 18 months ago, cancer had taken her mother, Anna, leaving a hole in their lives. A quiet girl who loved drawing birds, Lily had become even quieter after her mother's death. Her laughter had faded. The Chens had recently moved to Maple Creek, a wealthy suburb. Their comfortable home had been Anna's dream, one she never saw happen. Lily felt the quiet tensions of being one of the few minority families in the neighborhood. Colonel David Chen carried his military background with quiet strength. At 39, he was a decorated special operations commander. His voice was gentle with his daughter, but his hands knew violence when needed. Losing his wife had deepened the lines around his eyes. Buddy had been David's gift to Lily after Anna's funeral. A former military dog, Buddy was trained and loyal. He sensed Lily's bad dreams and slept at the foot of her bed. With him, Lily had slowly begun to smile again. On this late September afternoon, Lily clipped Buddy's leash to his collar. David was away on a short deployment, and their walks were her anchor. She wore her favorite sweatshirt, a gift from her father. "We'll be back before dinner, Uncle Ben," she called. Her uncle, working at the kitchen table, smiled. "Stay on the main loop and be back by 6. Lasagna tonight." Outside, Maple Creek looked perfect. Mr. Petrov waved from his porch. "Looking strong, Buddy," he called. Lily waved back, thankful for his kindness. They walked their usual route, Buddy matching her pace perfectly. His presence kept strangers away. Near the park, a police car pulled up beside them. Lily noticed it right away. Her father's training whispered in her ear, "Stay calm. Be polite, The car stopped. Officers Walsh and Reynolds got out. Lily felt a flutter of fear. "Afternoon," Walsh said, his eyes scanning. "You live around here?" "Yes, sir," Lily replied softly. "On Elmwood Drive." "Your father home?" Reynolds asked. "He's away on business. My uncle is with me." Reynolds stepped closer, looking at Buddy. "Big dog for a little girl. You sure you can control him?" "Buddy is trained, sir. He's no trouble." "We've had reports of suspicious activity," Walsh said, his hand near his belt. "Seen anything?" "No, sir." Lily stepped back, and Buddy moved with her. "What's your name?" Reynolds' tone got sharper. "Lily Chun. My father is Colonel David Chun." No reaction. "Colonel of what?" "Army, sir. Special operations." Walsh stepped closer. "Got ID?" "I'm 12. I don't carry it." Reynolds snorted. "Convenient." He moved closer, and Buddy let out a low rumble, a warning, not a growl. "Control your dog." Reynolds snapped, hand on his weapon. "He is controlled," Lily said, fear growing. "He's reacting to you. Step back and he'll calm down." Instead, Reynolds moved forward. "I said control him." Buddy shifted, put himself in front of Lily, protective, not aggressive. "He's attacking." Reynolds shouted, pulling his gun. "No!" Lily screamed, pulling Buddy back, but it was too late. The gunshot echoed. Buddy yelped and fell, blood darkening his coat. Lily dropped beside him, pressing on the wound. "Buddy, please stay with me." Blood soaked through her fingers. Buddy's eyes found hers, full of confusion and pain, then went empty. Walsh stood back. The dog was aggressive. He was going to attack. "You saw it," Reynolds insisted, putting his gun away. Lily looked up, tears streaming. He wasn't. He was protecting me. You scared him. Step away, Walsh ordered, reaching for her. She pulled back. Don't touch me. Help him. From his porch, Mr. Petrov spoke firmly into his phone. I need to report an incident. 2 officers just shot a girl's dog. No reason. I saw it all. Lily held Buddy's head. His tail moved once, weakly, then stopped. He's dead, she whispered, empty. You killed him. She looked at the officers. Her face changed by pain. My father will make you pay for this. Reynolds laughed meanly. A threat, little girl? No, she said, tears falling on Buddy's fur. It's a promise. We'll see about that, little girl, Reynolds said, his voice full of menace. Officer Walsh pulled Lily to her feet. She was numb, her clothes stained with Buddy's blood. Mr. Petrov approached, his voice firm. You can't take her without a guardian. This is police business, Walsh replied dismissively, but his hand trembled slightly as he clicked his pen repeatedly. I recorded everything. The dog wasn't aggressive. I've called 911. With neighbors watching and recording, Walsh's demeanor shifted. He forced an unconvincing smile. We'll sort this at the station and call your uncle. I'm not leaving him, Lily whispered, staring at Buddy's body. Animal control will handle it. Reynolds said impatiently. Mr. Petrov put an arm around Lily. Call her uncle now. From the station, Walsh insisted, guiding Lily to the cruiser. She moved mechanically, in shock. At Bond's Unspoken, we believe every story between a human and their animal companion deserves to be heard. If you agree, please like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can join us every time another Bond speaks louder than words. At the precinct, they placed her in a small, windowless room. Time blurred. She stared at the blood on her hands. Nearly 2 hours later, Uncle Ben burst in. As the family's attorney, I'm invoking her right to counsel immediately. He hugged her tightly, then turned to the officers. You held a minor without notification or representation. That dog was a registered support animal for a child who lost her mother. The dog was aggressive, Reynolds began. Save it, Ben snapped. I've seen the footage. We're leaving. This isn't over. As they left, Lily's gaze met Officer Parker's by the desk. His eyes held shame. In the car, silence. At home, Ben guided her to the bathroom. Let's get cleaned up. Lily looked at her bloody hands. If I wash it away, he's really gone. He'll always be with you, Ben said softly. Later, she sat on her bed, staring at Buddy's empty bed. Ben made calls, his voice alternating between calm and rage as he contacted lawyers and tried to reach David. That night, nightmares came. Lily woke screaming for Buddy. Ben held her, but it wasn't the same. 3 days later, David Chin stepped off a military transport, his face grim. He'd been extracted from his mission after Ben's message. He found Lily motionless on the couch. Lily! She turned and launched into his arms, sobbing violently. I couldn't save him, Daddy. I tried, but I couldn't stop the bleeding. David held her tightly. His eyes met Ben's overhead, a cold fury in his gaze. It's not your fault, David said gently. Buddy protected you. He wasn't attacking. He was just in front of me. I know. I believe you. After Lily fell asleep, David sat with Ben. Internal affairs cleared them, Ben said. Justified use of force. They claimed the dog lunged. David's expression hardened. The videos? Inconclusive, they say. The system protects its own. I'm filing a civil suit, but it's not enough, David finished. He stood, staring out the window. My daughter can't sleep or speak. That dog saved her after Anna died. The system failed her. I won't. David reviewed the internal report in his study. The official narrative was a lie. The canine lunged through the door. He watched Lily, now a ghost of herself, her homework untouched. Ben entered with another folder. Their personnel files. Walsh has 17 complaints. Excessive force, racial profiling. Reynolds has 9. No discipline. David saw the pattern. Every complainant is a person of color. This wasn't an accident, Ben. In a mostly white jurisdiction, Ben confirmed, the system is wired to protect them. The suspicious activity was fabricated. No call was made. They targeted Lily for being out of place. David nodded. I respect your legal fight, Ben, but I can't wait. Not while Lily suffers. What are you planning? I need you to continue the suit. Be the voice of reason. David gathered the papers. While I ensure they never hurt another child. David, I can't be part of anything illegal. I'm not asking you to. Just be there for Lily. He looked toward his daughter. She needs justice. Since the system won't provide it, I will. David began his surveillance with methodical precision. He mapped the officers' routines. Walsh's suburban home, Reynolds' apartment, their favorite bar. He installed hidden cameras around his property, waiting for their inevitable return. A week later, an unexpected call came from Officer Parker. Commander Chin, I was there when your daughter's dog was shot. The official report isn't true. They met at a coffee shop. Parker, out of uniform, looked young and nervous. There was no call about suspicious activity. Walsh saw your daughter and said, another one moving in before pulling over. Reynolds wasn't afraid. He was angry. The dog was just protecting her. Why come forward now? David asked. Because I found out about Buddy being a trained support animal. About your daughter losing her mother. Parker's voice tightened. I became a cop to help people. I'll testify when you need me. As Parker left, David received a text from Ben, *DA, declining charges. Insufficient evidence, *. The system had failed. The time for watching was over. That evening, David intercepted Walsh in the parking lot behind the oak barrel. My daughter hasn't spoken above a whisper since you killed her dog, David said, his voice dangerously calm. Walsh reached for his weapon. This is harassment. David moved faster than Walsh could react, pinning him against the car. Buddy was protecting my daughter. Any competent officer would know the difference between protection and aggression. You're threatening a police officer. I'm promising a corrupt man that actions have consequences. David released him. Stay away from my family. You and Reynolds are finished here. As David walked away, Walsh shouted after him, We protect our own. David didn't turn back. So do I? The confrontation worked. Reynolds became jumpy on patrol, Walsh more aggressive. Parker's updates confirmed complaints against both officers were increasing. 2 weeks later, Lily's therapist called. Lily is developing PTSD symptoms. Fear police, loud noises. She needs stability. That evening on the porch, Lily asked a question David had been dreading. Are you going to hurt those policemen, Daddy? Where did that come from? I know how you get when someone hurts people you love. Her eyes were too wise for a 12-year-old. What if hurting them just makes more hurt, like throwing a rock in a pond? David wrapped an arm around her. What do you think would help? I think Buddy would want us to be okay. He wouldn't want us sad forever. She leaned against him. I just miss him so much. That night, David received a text from Parker. They're planning something tomorrow. Watch your daughter. David didn't sleep. He reinforced security systems, cameras, and locks. At breakfast, he told Lily, no school today. We're taking a day trip to the planetarium. But my routine dash. Sometimes we break routine. David was already texting Ben their coded message. Taking Lily to see the stars. House might need attention. Ben would understand. Get Lily to safety. Trouble coming. They left through the back, avoiding the patrol car that had already passed twice. David drove evasively before leaving Lily with Ben's colleague outside town. Returning home, David positioned himself in the property's blind spot and waited. The house stood empty, vulnerable. The trap was set. At 2:17 p.m., the patrol car rolled past slowly. Reynolds pointed toward the house. The car continued, returned 15 minutes later, and the officers approached elderly Mr. Petrov's home next door. David watched through binoculars as Mr. Petrov stood his ground against their intimidation. When the officers finally left, David moved inside. He checked that all cameras were operational and prepared for their return. The cruiser screeched to a halt out front at 4:30. This time, there was no pretense of routine. Walsh and Reynolds approached with purposeful strides. David opened the door before they knocked. "Officers, we need to ask you some questions," Walsh said, pushing past them into the living room. Reynolds closed the door behind them, a power move. "We have reports of threats against police officers," Reynolds said. "I'm not sure what you're referring to." David remained calm. "I've been caring for my traumatized daughter." "Where is she?" Walsh demanded. "Not here." "Convenient." Reynolds circled behind David. "We've been looking into you. Delta Force. A lot of violence. Makes a man unstable, doesn't it? PTSD? Anger issues?" "I'm in excellent health, thank you." Walsh picked up a photo of Lily with Buddy. "Shame about the dog. But you military types understand collateral damage, right?" David's jaw tightened, but he maintained control. "I understand the difference between necessary force and abuse of power." Reynolds moved suddenly, knocking a book from David's hand. "You threatening us?" "Not at all." David bent slowly to retrieve it. He noted the slight tremor in Reynolds's gun hand. Fear made men predictable. Reynolds's patience snapped. He grabbed David's collar, shoving him against the wall. "You think you can intimidate us? That fancy training makes you untouchable." David made no move to resist. "I'm not threatening you. I'm unarmed." "Shut up." Reynolds slammed him against the wall again. "You think you're better than us? Coming here with your kind." Walsh watched, making no move to intervene. "You should have taught your daughter better manners, Chun. Kids need to learn respect for authority." "Respect is earned," David said calmly. Reynolds' fist connected with David's ribs. "That's for threatening my partner." David doubled over, not entirely faking the pain. "I haven't threatened anyone." "What do you call following us?" "That false call across town." David said nothing, allowing Reynolds to incriminate himself on the recording. Walsh finally placed a hand on his partner's shoulder. "That's enough." "The hell it is." Reynolds snarled, landing another blow. "You need to understand how things work here," Walsh told David. "And you need to understand that actions have consequences," David replied, straightening despite the pain. Something in his tone penetrated their rage. Walsh's eyes narrowed with dawning understanding. "You wanted this. You provoked us." David's silence was confirmation. Reynolds' face paled as he recognized the trap. "You son of a dash." "I think we're done here," David interrupted. "Unless you'd like to add more charges to the assault you've already committed." "What charges?" Walsh demanded, his confidence faltering. "Your word against a decorated veteran?" David almost smiled. "Interesting theory. We'll see how it plays out." As they left, David delivered his final warning. "Next time you decide to terrorize a child, you might want to check who her father is first." The door slammed shut. David waited until their car sped away before moving to his computer. The footage was perfect. Clear audio and video from multiple angles, capturing every moment of the assault and their incriminating words. He made secure backups, then sent the first file to Ben with a simple message. "It's done." The next morning brought a heavy envelope. Inside, a handwritten note. "Asterisk parking garage, level 3. Noon. Come alone. Richardson asterisk." Captain Elena Richardson waited in the nearly empty garage. "Commander Chun, the walls have ears." She handed him a file. "You're being set up. The department received an anonymous tip weeks ago claiming you'd harass officers before you even filed a complaint." David scanned the documents. "They anticipated me." "Exactly. This pattern goes beyond you." Her expression hardened. 7 incidents involving minority military families. 3 involved service animals, all handled by Walsh and Reynolds. The Hernandez family service dog was shot just last month. Same justification. "Why help me? My Marine son came home with a service dog. A deputy shot the dog. Then my son when he moved. No charges." The shared pain hung between them. "They're escalating. All officers are now instructed to consider you armed and dangerous." "There's something else." Richardson's voice dropped. Walsh served under you in Afghanistan. You ended his career. The name Walsh landed like a blow to David's diaphragm, the memory of a disgraced soldier flashing in his mind. This wasn't random. It was personal. As they parted, Richardson warned, "Don't let justice blind you to what matters most." David's phone buzzed with Parker's text. Asterisk, they know I talked to you. Suspended. Something happening tonight. Asterisk. At home, David found Ben reviewing the assault footage. This is explosive, but dangerous. The blue wall protects his own. Before David could respond, the doorbell rang. A woman in a pantsuit stood there. Diane Mercer, Child Services. We received concerns about your daughter's safety, PTSD, vendetta against police. David remained calm. Based on anonymous report, we'll need to interview Lily and review records. We'll need to assess the home environment today. I see. Given the timing, this appears to be retaliation by Officers Walsh and Reynolds. My attorney will contact you. Mercer's expression hardened. Obstruction can result in temporary removal. David placed his phone on the table. Then I'll record this for my attorney. After they left, David called Ben. They're targeting Lily through DCFS. Textbook retaliation, Ben said. But family court can remove children pending investigation. His phone buzzed again. Lily's school. Commander Chin? Officers Walsh and Reynolds demanded to interview Lily. She overheard and had a panic attack. David arrived to find Lily curled in a chair outside the principal's office. They said they'd take me away, she whispered, clinging to him. In the car, she trembled. Officer Reynolds said no judge would let an unstable veteran keep me. David's hands tightened on the wheel. No one is taking you, Lily. They're scared because they did wrong. But that's not how the world should work, she said, wisdom beyond her years. As they pulled in, David spotted an unmarked cruiser watching the house. The choice crystallized. Continue and risk Lily, or surrender and let corruption win. That evening, David reviewed security footage. The same unmarked car appeared repeatedly. In one clear frame, he recognized Lieutenant Pearson and his passenger, Victor Decker, former military contractor, suspected ties to extremist groups. This isn't just two bad apples, Ben, David said. This is a rut that goes right to the top of their community group. Ben arrived with more files. Pearson chairs a community protection group. They've systematically targeted minority families moving into Maple Creek. Walsh recognized my name from Afghanistan, David said. This was personal from the start. Ben's phone rang. He listened, face grim. FBI is forming a task force. Richardson provided evidence. They're moving at dawn. David looked toward Lily's room where she slept with Stella, the new rescue puppy. It ends tomorrow. At 5 a.m., FBI agents descended on the police department. Walsh and Reynolds were arrested at their homes, Pearson at his office. The Neighborhood Integrity Coalition office was raided. David watched the news with Lily curled beside him. Are they gone, Daddy? She whispered. Yes, baby. They're gone. The federal charges piled up. Civil rights violations, conspiracy, witness intimidation. The DCFS case evaporated when Mercer's connection to Pearson was revealed. At the preliminary hearing, Walsh's eyes burned with hatred across the courtroom. Reynolds looked shrunken, finally facing consequences. Outside, Richardson handled press questions while Parker gave a statement. David declined interviews. Focus on Lily holding Stella's leash. 3 months later, watching Lily laugh as Stella Chase leaves, David felt the cold rage finally ease. The legal battle continued, but the healing had begun. On the porch that evening, Lily said, I think Buddy would be glad we saved Stella. David hugged her. I think he would too. The system hadn't worked perfectly, but courage and evidence had made it work enough. For now, that was sufficient. In the weeks following the arrests, a quiet transformation settled over the Chun household. Lily began speaking more freely, her nightmares becoming less frequent. Stella, while no replacement for Buddy, brought a new, joyful energy into their lives. The puppy's clumsy antics made Lily laugh, a sound David hadn't realized he'd been missing until he heard it again. Dr. Bennett noted the progress in their weekly session. The arrest of the officers has given Lily a sense of safety she hadn't felt since the incident. Stella provides a living connection that helps her process her grief. One evening, as David helped Lily with homework, she looked up suddenly. "Did you know they were going to take me away?" David chose his words carefully. "I knew they were trying to scare us, but I would never have let that happen. Because you're a soldier? Because I'm your father." He tapped her notebook. "Now, what's the answer to number 7? The civil case proceeded smoothly with the criminal convictions secured. The settlement wasn't about money for David. It was about accountability. He insisted the funds be divided between Lily's college fund and a charity supporting families of fallen soldiers. Officer Parker resigned from the force and began working with police reform organizations. Captain Richardson was appointed interim police chief, her first act being mandatory de-escalation training for all officers. 3 months after the arrests, David stood with Lily at Buddy's grave in their backyard. They planted a dogwood tree over the spot where he lay, and now autumn leaves dance around its base. "I still miss him," Lily said, placing a small stone on the marker. "Me too." David put his arm around her. "But it's okay to miss him and still be happy with Stella. Love is a limited resource." Lily nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "Like how I can love Mom and still love you just as much." "Exactly." David's throat tightened. "Exactly like that." As they turned to go inside, Lily paused. "Thank you, Daddy." "For what, sweetheart?" "For making it safe again." She hugged him tightly. "And for not becoming like them." As she spoke, David felt the cold knot of rage in his chest finally begin to loosen. He held his daughter, justice having come not through violence or vengeance, but through evidence, courage, and the system finally working as it should. That night, he sat on the porch watching Stella chase fireflies in the yard. Ben joined him, handing him a beer. The last of the internal investigations wrapped up today. Ben said, 12 officers disciplined for fired. Richardson's cleaning house. David took a long drink. "It's a start." "Lily seems better." "She is." David watched as Lily came out to play with Stella, her laughter floating through the twilight. "We both are." The legal battles will continue for months, the appeals and civil proceedings stretching into the new year. But the immediate threat was gone, the corrupt officers removed, and the system that had protected them dismantled. As darkness settled, David realized the greatest victory wasn't the convictions or the reforms, but the sound of his daughter's laughter returning, the light coming back into her eyes, and the peace that had settled over their home. Some wars weren't won with weapons, but with persistence, principle, and the unwavering love for a child who needed her father to be better than the men who'd wronged them. The first snow of winter dusted Maple Creek in a blanket of white, softly covering the scars of the past months. David watched in the window as Lily and Stella played in the yard, the puppy bounding through fresh powder while Lily laughed, her breath forming clouds in the crisp air. The changes in his daughter were subtle but profound. The haunted look was gradually replaced by flickers of genuine joy. She still had nightmares, but they were less frequent. She still missed Buddy, but the sharp pain had softened into a cherished memory. "She's doing better," Ben said, joining David at the window and handing him a steaming mug of coffee. David nodded. "She's more resilient than I knew." "The settlement came through," Ben said. "The department agreed to all our terms, the college fund, the donation, the public apology. And Walsh and Reynolds? Plea bargains. They'll serve time. Pearson got the worst of it. Federal conspiracy charges." Ben sipped his coffee. The system worked, eventually. David watched his daughter. It took a push. "That it did." Ben studied his brother. "You're different too. The anger's gone." David considered this. The cold rage that fueled him had dissipated, replaced by a quiet vigilance. He'd installed a proper security system, maintained his awareness, but the burning need for vengeance had cooled. That afternoon, David took Lily to the animal shelter where they'd found Stella. They'd started volunteering on weekends, a suggestion from Dr. Bennett to help Lily process her grief through service. Lily moved through the kennels with a quiet confidence, introducing David to each dog. "This is Zeus," she said, stopping before a large mixed breed. "He's been here 6 months. Nobody wants him because he's big and has a scar on his face." David studied the dog. He had intelligent eyes and stood calmly despite the barking around him. "He looks like he's seen some things." The shelter manager, Sarah, joined them. Zeus was a police K-9, washed out of training after getting injured. "He's a sweetheart, but people are intimidated." Lily looked from Zeus to her father, her expression thoughtful. "He reminds me of Buddy. Not how he looks, but how he feels." On the drive home, Lily was quiet. Finally, she said, "Do you think we could take Zeus home? Just to foster?" Sarah said they're overcrowded. David considered the request. "We have Stella now." "I know, but Zeus doesn't have anyone, and Stella needs a friend." She looked out the window. "Buddy would want us to help another dog who's alone." The simple wisdom of the statement struck David. 2 days later, Zeus came home with him on a trial basis. The big dog settled in with surprising ease. He and Stella became instant playmates, and David soon discovered Lily was right. There was something familiar in Zeus's calm, watchful presence. A week before Christmas, David found Lily sitting with both dogs in the living room, sketching in her nature journal. She'd started drawing again, another sign of healing. "Look," she said, showing him the page. She'd drawn Zeus and Stella sleeping curled together, with a faint, ghostly outline of Buddy watching over them. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." "I was thinking," she said carefully, "maybe we could make Zeus part of our family. For real." David looked at the big dog, who thumped his tail at the attention. "We'll see," he said, but he already knew the answer. That evening, David received a visit from Captain Richardson. She stood on his porch, holding a file folder. "Commander," she said, "I have something to show you." Inside, she spread documents on the kitchen table. "We found this during the internal investigation." Walsh kept a journal. "It confirms everything. He recognized your name immediately. This was always personal." David scanned the pages, his stomach tightening at the hatred spilling from words. Walsh had detailed his plan to drive the Chens from Maple Creek, starting with putting the half-breed in her place. "It's sickening," Richardson said, "but I thought you should know the truth." David closed the journal. "Thank you. For this and for everything." Richardson hesitated. "There's one more thing. The department is establishing a community liaison position. We want someone to help rebuild trust, especially with military families. I thought with your background." David shook his head before she finished. "I'm done with that life. My place is here with Lily." "I understand." Richardson gathered her things. "The offer stands if you change your mind." After she left, David stood on the porch watching the snowfall. The revelation about Walsh's journal should have reignited his anger, but instead he felt only pity. The man's hatred had consumed him, while David had chosen to build something better. Inside, he found Lily asleep on the couch, Zeus curled at her feet, and Stella nestled against her side. The scene was so peaceful, so right, that any lingering darkness in his heart finally lifted. He covered his daughter with a blanket and sat watching over her. Some battles change you, David realized. The trick was to be changed for the better. The past couldn't be undone, but the future stretched before them, clean and white like the new fallen snow, full of possibilities. As he sat there in the quiet, David's phone buzzed. It was a number he didn't recognize. The message was simple, but it sent a chill down his spine. Asterisk, they're not as gone as you think. Watch your back. Asterisk, spring arrived in Maple Creek, painting the world in shades of green and renewal. The dogwood tree over Buddy's grave bloomed with delicate white flowers, a living memorial that seemed to approve of the new life taking root around it. David watched from the kitchen window as Lily trained Zeus in the backyard. The former K-9 had officially become part of their family, his calm presence a steadying influence on them both. Stella danced around them, all youthful energy to Zeus's measured patience. Therapy session in 15 minutes. Ben called from the doorway. "You're joining today, remember?" David nodded, though the prospect still made him uncomfortable. Dr. Bennett had been insisting for weeks. Your daughter's healing is connected to yours, she'd explained. She needs to see you process this too. In the therapist's office, Lily sat between David and Zeus, her hand resting on the big dog's head. Stella lay at her feet. Lily was telling me about the nightmares returning. Dr. Bennett began gently, the ones with the loud noises. David felt a familiar tension in his shoulders. I thought they'd stopped. They did, Lily said quietly. But they came back after the fire drill at school last week. David's protective instincts surged. Why didn't you tell me? Because you get that look, she whispered. The one that means you're thinking about before. The observation struck David with unexpected force. He believed he was hiding his lingering anger better. Dr. Bennett leaned forward. David, children are remarkably perceptive. They sense emotional currents. Lily needs to know it's safe for both of you to be vulnerable. The session continued, peeling back layers David had kept carefully buried. He spoke of the guilt he felt for not being there when Buddy was shot, for not protecting Lily from that trauma. He admitted the fear that haunted him, that he'd failed as a father in that crucial moment. Lily listened with wide eyes, then surprised them both by speaking. I used to think it was my fault, that if I'd held the leash tighter or said something different. David's throat tightened. Oh, baby. No. Dr. Bennett watched the exchange thoughtfully. This is the work, acknowledging that trauma affects everyone, and that healing happens together. After the session, David took Lily for ice cream, something they hadn't done since before Anna's death. They sat at their old favorite spot by the river, Zeus and Stella lying contentedly at their feet. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the nightmares, Lily said between spoonfuls of chocolate chip mint. And I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't. David studied his daughter. When did you get so grown up? She gave him a small smile. Dr. Bennett says trauma makes kids grow up faster. But she says it's okay to be a kid sometimes, too. The simplicity of the wisdom struck David. He'd been so focused on being strong, on protecting, on seeking justice, that he'd forgotten how to simply be present. That evening, David found the journal Captain Richardson had given him. He'd been avoiding it, but now he sat at the kitchen table and began to read. Walsh's hatred leaped from the pages. Full of hate, obsessive, the entries detailed not just his vendetta against David, but his contempt for anyone he deemed outsiders. The man had been a powder keg waiting to explode, and David's family had been the unfortunate spark. But as David read deeper, he began to see past the hatred to the pain beneath. Walsh's military career had been his entire identity, and its loss had left him hollow. The journal chronicled his downward spiral. The drinking, the failed relationships, the transfer from department to department. David closed the journal, surprised to find pity mingling with his anger. Walsh had chosen his path, but David could see the crossroads where the man had taken the wrong turn. He found Lily on the porch swing, Zeus standing guard beside her. How was it? She asked, seeing the journal in his hand. David sat beside her. It was sad. He was a broken man who chose to break others rather than heal himself. Lily leaned against him. I'm glad you're not like that. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. That night, for the first time in months, neither of them had nightmares. The ghosts, it seemed, had finally been laid to rest. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. David was reviewing early Warrior Watch Patrol reports when his phone buzzed. It was an encrypted message from a number he didn't recognize. */ Jens CRYN _active / source deep _ context project _ eraser status compromised asset chun d / commander threat _ level elevated note deceased still breathing confirmed Tango still active watch the shadows / Jens CRYN Cindy / asterisk. David's blood ran cold. Deceased still breathing. It was an old, dark Spec Ops joke for when a supposedly dead target resurfaced. Tangos meant targets. Enemies. He deleted the message and wiped the phone, his mind racing. He had trusted the system. He had let his guard down. He had believed it was over. He looked out the window at Lily, who was laughing as Zeus gently took a treat from her hand. The sight of her, so happy and safe, made the cold, professional part of his mind snap into focus. The past would always be part of them, but it no longer had to define them. They were learning to carry their wounds without letting them dictate their path forward. But now, a new, old path was calling, a path of shadows and threats. As Lily came inside, smiling, David made a decision. He opened a secure laptop he hadn't touched in years. It was time to call in a favor from someone who never believed the war was over. The message was simple. Asterisk, the eagle is back in the nest, and the foxes are circling. Asterisk, the maple trees lining Elmwood Drive burst into vibrant red and orange, marking the one-year anniversary of Buddy's death with beauty rather than sorrow. David noticed a change in seasons with a new perspective. Less as time passing, more as cycles renewing. Lily had started middle school, a transition that worried David more than it did her. She'd chosen a locker far from the main hallway to avoid crowding, and her teachers knew about her noise sensitivity. Yet she came home each day with stories of new friends, her resilience quietly astonishing him. One October afternoon, Captain Richardson appeared at their door again, this time holding a thick binder. "Commander," she said with formal warmth, "I'm not taking no for an answer this time." She spread materials across the kitchen table, program outlines, partnership proposals, community surveys. The liaison position is funded and approved, but it's evolved into something more, a community safety initiative that partners police with veterans. David began protests, but Richardson cut him off. "Hear me out. We're losing too many veterans to isolation, and police departments are struggling with community trust. This program addresses both." Lily, drawn by the voices, appeared in the doorway with Zeus at her side. "What's happening?" Richardson smiled. "I'm trying to convince your father to help me with a new program, one where veterans and police work together to make neighborhoods safer." Lily's eyes lit up. "Like how Zeus helps watch over our house?" "Exactly like that," Richardson said, shooting David a meaningful look. After she left, David found Lily studying the program materials. "This looks important, Daddy." "It is, sweetheart, but my job is being here for you." Lily considered this, her expression serious. "Dr. Bennett says helping others is part of healing, and Zeus makes me feel safe when you're not here." The observation lingered with David through the evening. He watched as Lily moved through her routine, homework with Stella, saying goodnight to Buddy's tree, Zeus taking his post at her bed. She was building her own safety systems, her own resilience. The next morning, David found Ben reviewing the program materials. "She's right, you know," Ben said without preamble. "This is exactly what you're good at, building bridges, creating order from chaos." "It's not that simple," David countered. "After everything that happened, because of everything that happened," Ben insisted. "Who better to design this than someone who's seen the system fail and still believes it can be fixed?" David spent the day at the police station, observing the new training protocols. He watched rookie officers practice de-escalation, saw seasoned veterans learning trauma-informed approaches, and witnessed the beginning of cultural change he'd never believed possible. Officer Parker, now leading some trainings, pulled David aside. "We're making progress, but we need someone who understands both sides. The veterans trust you and the department respects you." That evening, David sat with Lily on the porch swing. "What would you think," he asked carefully, "if I took this job? It would mean some evenings away, maybe some weekend events." Lily leaned against him. "I think Buddy would want you to help make sure what happened to us doesn't happen to anyone else." 2 days later, David stood before the city council, Richardson at his side. The Warrior Watch program will partner veterans with community police officers for neighborhood patrols, school safety programs, and crisis response. It utilizes military training for public safety while helping veterans reintegrate. The council approved the pilot program unanimously. The first weeks were challenging. David navigated bureaucratic hurdles, skeptical police veterans, and wary community members. But slowly, bridges formed. A retired Marine captain began coordinating with local schools. An Army medic developed emergency response protocols. Lily, meanwhile, had been working on a project of her own. With Dr. Bennett's help, she'd started a Pause for Peace program at her school, where students could read to therapy dogs during stressful exam weeks. "Like you taught me," she told David proudly, "sometimes the bravest thing is knowing when you need a quiet space." One crisp November morning, David stood with the first Warrior Watch team, 6 veterans and 4 police officers, as they prepared for their first neighborhood patrol. The group represented different backgrounds, different experiences, but shared purpose. Richardson handed David the program coordinator badge. "You built this, Commander. Now lead it." As the team moved out into the community, David felt something settle into place. The same certainty he felt on successful missions, but tempered with hard-won wisdom. This wasn't about conquest or defense, but about building and protecting. Returning home that evening, he found Lily teaching Zeus a new command while Stella watched. "How was your first day?" she asked. David looked at his daughter, healed but not unmarked, wiser for her wounds. "It was good, Lily. Really good." The past year had taken much from them, but it had given them something too, the understanding that safety isn't the absence of danger, but the presence of connection. That night, David reviewed the team's first patrol reports. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Community members grateful for the presence, veterans reporting feeling purposeful again. Then his secure laptop chimed. The contact from his past had replied. */ *YNCRYN_active / confirmed. Tango's active. Identity, VD and Associates. Motive, legacy cleanup. Note, they know about Warrior Watch. They see it as a threat. Your public profile makes you a target. Maintain cover. / YNCRYN_*. David's eyes narrowed. Victor Decker, the name from the conspiracy. He was supposed to be in witness protection. If he was active again and saw Warrior Watch as a threat. David looked toward Lily's room. He had built something good here, something that helped people. He had promised her a normal life. But as he read the message again, he knew normal was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not when the shadows from his past were reaching for his daughter's future. He opened a new encrypted message and typed, "I'm in. What's the first move?" The first emergency call for Warrior Watch came on a rainy Thursday evening. A domestic disturbance in an apartment complex. A veteran experiencing a PTSD episode, barricaded with his service dog. David's team arrived to find local officers preparing a tactical approach. "Stand down," David told the sergeant. "Let's handle this." He approached the apartment alone, hands visible. "Mr. Evans, I'm David Chun with Warrior Watch. I'm coming in unarmed." Inside, a man crouched behind a sofa, arms wrapped around a trembling Labrador. "Stay back. I don't want to hurt anyone." "I believe you," David said calmly, lowering himself to sit on the floor. "My daughter has a service dog, too. His name is Zeus." The man's breathing slowed slightly. "Ranger's all I got left. I know that feeling." David kept his voice soft. He spoke about his own struggles, about Lily's nightmares, about how animals bridge the gap when words fail. Slowly, the man emerged, Ranger pressing against his leg. "My wife left," Evans whispered. "Took the kids. Said she couldn't handle the episodes." David nodded. "We have resources. People who understand. You don't have to do this alone." When Evans agreed to go to the VA hospital, the tension evaporated. Officer Parker shook his head. "We have had a very different outcome without you." But David felt the encounter's weight. Seeing Evans's pain had reopened his own wounds. He drove home slowly, the rain matching his mood. Lily was waiting up. She took one look at his face and wordlessly made him tea. They sat at the kitchen table, Zeus at their feet. "Was it bad?" she asked. David described the scene carefully. "He reminded me of how I was after your mother died. So alone." Lily listened. "But we're not alone anymore. We have each other." The simple truth settled something in him. He'd spent so long being protector, he'd forgotten what it meant to be part of a community. The next morning, Evans called from the VA. "They're getting me into a program. First time I felt hope in years." Word spread. Soon, 3 more veterans contacted Warrior Watch before reaching crisis point. Meanwhile, Lily's Pause for Peace program faced its own challenge. A new student, Mark, sat alone at lunch, rejecting all friendship. He reminds me of how I was, Lily told David, but I don't know how to help. Sometimes the bravest thing is to be patient, David said, and present. The following week, during a stressful math test, Mark began having a panic attack. While other students stared, Lily quietly led Zeus over and placed the dog's leash in Mark's hand. "Zeus is good at math," she said simply, then returned to her seat. Mark's breathing slowed as he petted Zeus. After the test, he approached Lily. "Thanks. Dogs help." "Sometimes people do too," Lily said. For the first time, Mark smiled. David watched from the doorway, his heart swelling with pride. His daughter was becoming the healer he was still learning to be. As Warrior Watch expanded, David found the work fulfilling, but the secret threat loomed. During a late-night strategy session, his secure laptop chimed. Asterisk //. /active // Target. Warrior_Watch comms. Method. Subtle data poisoning. Goal. Discredit program via false incidents. Next phase. Plant evidence of vigilantism. Action. Isolate and counter-surveil. // // They weren't just watching. They were actively trying to sabotage his work, to turn the community against the very program designed to protect it. The next day, David subtly altered patrol routes and implemented new verification protocols for incident reports. He couldn't tell his team the real reason, which pained him. He was building trust while practicing deception. The conflict came to a head during a community meeting. A man stood up, aggressive and loud. "I've heard reports of your Warrior Watch harassing citizens, acting like judge and jury." David remained calm. "We have strict protocols and full transparency with the police department. If you have specific incidents, please report them." "I will. This is a vigilante group, and we don't want you here." After the man stormed out, Richardson approached David. That was Victor Decker's nephew. "The opposition is getting bold." David nodded. The shadows were stepping into the light, and they were aiming straight for his program's heart. That night, as David reviewed security footage, he saw it, a figure, face obscured, placing a small bag in the trunk of a Warrior Watch patrol car. They were planting evidence. He texted his team, "Stand down. Do not move the vehicles. We have a situation." The war for the community's trust had just begun, and the first shot had been fired. The Warrior Watch anniversary celebration filled the community center with a warmth that had little to do with the spring day outside. David stood near the entrance, watching as veterans, police officers, and community members mingled, a sight that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. Lily moved through the crowd with a confidence that still surprised him, introducing Zeus to children who tentatively reached out to pet him. Stella trotted at her heels, wearing a blue bandana that matched Lily's dress. Captain Richardson joined David. "She's thriving." "We both are," David said, and for a moment almost believed it. The program had exceeded expectations. Response times improved in patrol areas. Veteran suicide rates in the county had dropped. Most importantly, police escalation incidents had decreased dramatically. Officer Parker approached, now wearing a sergeant's stripes. "We just got the state grant. We can expand to 3 neighboring towns." David accepted the congratulations, but his attention kept returning to Lily. She was showing children how Zeus could help with deep pressure therapy during anxiety attacks, her voice clear and sure. When it came time for speeches, Richardson detailed the program's successes. Then she turned to David, the man who made this possible, a soldier who became a healer. David approached the podium to sustained applause. He looked out at the faces veterans he'd served with, officers who'd initially distrusted him, community members who'd been wary. "A year ago," he began, "my daughter asked me if hurting the people who hurt us would make things better. I didn't have a good answer then." He found Lily in the crowd, her smile steadying him. "I've learned since that true healing doesn't come from vengeance, but from building something better than what was broken. He spoke of Evans, now leading peer support groups, of Mark, now thriving in school, of the small moments that added up to transformation. When we started Warrior Watch, David concluded, we thought we were creating a program. What we were really building was a community, a network of support that catches people before they fall. After the speeches, an older woman approached David, her eyes moist. My son was a Marine. He didn't make it home. But seeing this, knowing other veterans have the support, it helps. David took her hand. We remember them by building what they fought for. Later, as the celebration wound down, Lily found him. You were really good up there. Thanks to my speech coach, he said, bumping her shoulder gently. The following week, David received the official email, an invitation to consult on a national version of Warrior Watch. The Department of Veterans Affairs wanted to replicate their model in 20 cities. That evening, he discussed it with Lily over pizza. It would mean some travel. Not much, but some. Lily considered this. Feeding Stella a crust under the table. Would it help people like Mr. Evans and other places? Yes. Then you should do it. She said it with such certainty that David had to smile. Zeus and I will be fine. We have our own work to do anyway. Her work had indeed expanded. The school made Pause for Peace permanent, and Lily was training other students as peer supporters. Dr. Bennett had asked her to speak at a conference. Watching his daughter blossom, David realized the deepest healing had come from transforming their trauma into purpose. Their pain had become their foundation. The national consultation began with video conferences, then a trip to Washington. David was surprised to find Lily packed and ready to join him on the third trip. The organizers asked me to speak too, she explained casually, about how programs like Pause for Peace help kids who've experienced trauma. In the hotel room the night before their presentation, David found Lily practicing her speech with Zeus as her audience. And sometimes she was saying, the bravest thing isn't being strong, but asking for help when you need it. David leaned in the doorway, his heart full. Anna would have been so proud. Their joint presentation received a standing ovation. Watching Lily handle questions with poise and wisdom, David understood that while he'd been protecting his daughter, she'd been growing into someone who could protect others. On the flight home, Lily slept with her head on his shoulder. David watched the clouds drift past, thinking about their strange, painful, beautiful journey. They'd lost much along the way. Anna, Buddy, their innocence. But they'd found something too, purpose, community, and a love stronger than any pain. When they arrived home, Ben was waiting with a welcome banner and his famous lasagna. Captain Richardson and Sergeant Parker joined them, along with Mr. Petrov and several Warrior Watch members. As they gathered around the table, laughter filling the house that had known so much silence, David felt the last of the ghosts settle. The past was finally completely at peace. After everyone left, David stood on the porch with Lily, watching Zeus and Stella chase fireflies. The same yard where Buddy lay buried, where Lily had learned to smile again. Mom would be happy, wouldn't she? Lily asked softly. David put his arm around her. She'd be so proud of you, Lily, of the person you become. And you, Daddy, she'd be proud of you too. The stars emerged one by one, the same stars that had witnessed their pain and now witnessed their peace. The night felt not like an ending, but like a beginning. Later, checking a secure laptop, David found a new message that turned his blood cold. Asterisk //. _active / national expansion compromised. Deviate contact is Decker asset. Do not accept DC invitation. Repeat, do not accept. // // asterisk the victory he'd celebrated today, the national platform that could help thousands. It was all a carefully laid trap. Fall returned to Maple Creek, the cycle completing itself with a sense of peace rather than pain. On the anniversary of Buddy's death, David and Lily didn't visit his grave. Instead, they drove to the animal shelter, where Lily now volunteered every Saturday. The shelter had changed almost as much as they had. Thanks to Lily's advocacy, it now had a dedicated wing for service and therapy animals, with a plaque bearing Buddy's name. The Buddies Friends program paired shelter dogs with veterans in Warrior Watch, creating bonds that heal both human and animal. Mr. Evans adopted Ranger officially today. Sarah, the shelter manager, told him. He said without this program, he doesn't know where he'd be. Lily smiled. That's why we're here. To make more stories like that. David watched his daughter move to the kennels, greeting each dog by name, and saw the legacy they'd built from their loss. The pain hadn't disappeared, but had been transformed into something that helped others. At home that evening, David found a package waiting. The completed National Warrior Watch Implementation Guide. With his name listed as senior consultant, he flipped through the pages, seeing their local experiment now scaled to help thousands. Pretty impressive, Dad, Lily said, reading over his shoulder. We did this together, he reminded her. None of it would have happened without you. The truth of that statement settled between them. Lily's question, what if hurting them doesn't make it better, had been the seed from which all this growth had sprung. The following month brought one final closure. The city council approved a memorial garden where Buddy had been shot, with benches and a plaque dedicated to all service animals. At the dedication ceremony, David and Lily stood together, not as victims, but as founders. From this spot where something was taken, David told the crowd, we've learned to keep giving. That's how we honor what was lost. After the ceremony, Captain Richardson pulled David aside. I'm retiring next month. The department's in good hands. Parker's taking over as chief. David smiled. He'll be great. He learned from the best, Richardson said, and for the first time, David accepted the compliment without deflection. That night, as David checked the locks, he realized the fear was gone. The hypervigilance that had served him in combat and through the dark months had finally eased into ordinary caution. In Lily's room, he found her asleep with one hand on Zeus's head, Stella curled at her feet. The scene was so different from those terrible nights when she'd wake screaming for Buddy. Healing, he understood, wasn't about going back to who they were before, but about becoming someone new who could carry the loss without being defined by it. The following weekend, they took a trip to the coast, their first real vacation since Anna's death. Walking along the beach with the dogs racing through the surf, David felt a sense of completeness. Mom would have loved this, Lily said, her words carried by the wind. Yes, David agreed, but I think she'd love what we become even more. As they turned back toward their rental cottage, David realized the scales had tipped. The good memories now outweighed the bad. The joy outnumbered the sorrow. Their story hadn't ended with justice or vengeance, but with something deeper, redemption for themselves. They had taken their pain and made it into purpose. The peace shattered their first night back home. David's secure laptop chimed with urgent priority. The message wasn't from his usual contact. */ Jens _active / Source, Ghost_protocol. Alert, Operation Sunspot compromised. Your cover, blown. Immediate threat. Lily identified as primary leverage. Action, disappear. Now, / Jens // David's blood went cold. They knew about Lily. The thought was like a physical blow. All his work, all his caution, it hadn't been enough. He moved quickly to Lily's room, his heart pounding. She was safe, asleep, but for how long? The walls he had built around their life were crumbling. He woke Ben with a coded text. Within an hour, Ben was at the door, his face grim. David showed him the message. What now? Ben asked, his voice tight. Now we disappear, David said, his voice low and steady. He looked at Lily's door. I won't let them use her. Not again. He began to pack a go bag, his mind already shifting into a tactical mode he thought he'd left behind. The legacy he had built, the peaceful life, it was all a shield, and the shield had just cracked. As he zipped the bag shut, his phone vibrated, a number he didn't recognize. He answered, his voice a low growl. Who is this? The voice on the other end was calm, chillingly familiar. Hello, David. It's Victor Decker. I hear you've been building quite the legacy. I'd like to discuss it. But first, let me speak to my niece. The word niece hung in the air, a poison grenade whose pin had just been pulled. David's grip on the phone turned his knuckles white. He said nothing, his silence a weapon. Victor Decker's voice remained smooth on the other end. Surprised, David? Anna never told you about her black sheep brother, did she? The one who joined the military contractor world. She's so despised. David's mind raced, connecting horrific dots. This wasn't just a random corrupt cop conspiracy. This was a targeted, personal vendetta fueled by a twisted sense of family betrayal. Decker hadn't just targeted any minority military family. He had targeted his own sister's family. You stay away from her, David said, his voice dangerously low. Or what? You'll do what you should have done years ago. Decker chuckled. I'm not the one who hid her from her own family, David. I just want to reconnect. To offer her the opportunities you've been denying her. I'm hanging up now. Before you do, Decker said, his tone shifting to businesslike coldness. Consider this a professional courtesy. The narrative is about to change. Warrior Watch will be publicly exposed tomorrow as a vigilante group planning false flag attacks. The evidence is compelling. Your choice is simple. You can watch everything you built burn to the ground and see Lily taken into protective custody as the daughter of a domestic terrorist, or you can bring her to me. A simple conversation. That's all I ask. The line went dead. David stood frozen in the middle of his living room, the peaceful life he'd built lying in shattered pieces at his feet. The man who had orchestrated the death of his dog, the terrorizing of his child, was his wife's brother. The betrayal was so profound it felt unreal. Ben, who had heard David's side of the conversation, looked pale. David, what in God's name is going on? Pack a bag for Lily, David said, his voice hollow. We're leaving. Now. They didn't go to a safe house. David drove to the one place he knew Decker wouldn't expect. The dormant, decommissioned communications bunker on the old state military reservation. It was a place from his past, forgotten by everyone except those who needed to be forgotten. Lily, awake now and wrapped in a blanket, was silent for the long ride. Only when they were deep inside the concrete fortress, the massive steel door closed behind them, did she speak. That man on the phone, he said he was my uncle. David knelt before her. His name is Victor Decker. He was your mother's brother. She cut ties with him a long time ago, before you were born, because of the person he'd become. She wanted to protect you from him. Lily processed this, her eyes too old for her face. He's the one who made them hurt, buddy? David nodded. The truth, a bitter pill. Yes, this was all because of him. Then he's not my family, she said, with a finality that broke David's heart. Family doesn't do that. While Lily slept on a cot, Zeus and Stella standing guard, David and Ben formulated a plan. They couldn't run forever. Decker had resources, reach, and a terrifying willingness to burn down the entire world to get what he wanted. The only way out is through him, David said, staring at a map on his tablet. We have to flip the script. He thinks he's a hunter. We need to become the hunters. It's a suicide mission, Ben argued. He's got an army. He had an army when he was hiding in the shadows, David replied, a cold fire in his eyes. But he just made this personal. He dragged my daughter into it. He doesn't have an army. He has a target on his back. David accessed the deepest, most encrypted channels he knew. He sent out a single, coded pulse, a call to arms. It wasn't to official channels. It was to the network, the quiet, capable, and utterly loyal men and women from his old life who owed him favors, or who simply believed in the same things he did. The responses trickled in, one by one. Asterisk / / acknowledged / standing by. / Asterisk / locks / our / open / asterisk / the pack / is / the hunting / They were ready. Just before dawn, David received the confirmation he needed. A final message lit up his screen. Asterisk / bird's eye view / acquired. Target is in the / nest / Coordinates locked. / they have found Decker's primary operations center. David looked at his daughter, then at Ben. It's time to end this. He handed Ben a pistol. No matter what happens, you get her out. The final battle for their future was about to begin. The assault on Decker's compound was a masterpiece of precision and violence. David moved to the darkness with 5 operators from his past, ghosts who understood this kind of war. They weren't there to arrest anyone. They were there to burn a cancer from their world. Inside the converted warehouse, David found Decker waiting in an opulent office, surrounded by monitors showing the data war he was waging against Warrior Watch. David, Decker said, spreading his hands. I knew you'd come, but are you ready for what happens next? The moment you pull that trigger, every media outlet gets the evidence package. You'll be the terrorist I've painted you to be. David kept his weapon trained. You targeted my daughter, your own niece. Anna made her choice when she married you. Decker spat, the polished facade cracking. She chose your world over her own family. I'm just reclaiming what's left of mine. Before David could respond, gunfire erupted in the hallway. Decker's security team had regrouped. In the chaos, Decker made his move, not for a weapon, but for a dead man's switch on his desk. If I die, the data drops. If I'm arrested, the data drops. There's no winning this, David. David's shot was perfectly placed. Through Decker's hand, pinning it to the desk. The man screamed in pain and surprise. You always underestimated me, Victor, David said, securing the switch. That's why you lost. As his team secured the building and the evidence, David made a call to Captain Richardson. It's over. I'm sending you everything. The truth this time. In the days that followed, the story unfolded not as a scandal, but as a triumph. Richardson and Parker managed the narrative, releasing evidence of Decker's extensive conspiracy while protecting Warrior Watch's reputation. The program emerged stronger than ever, its credibility cemented by surviving such a sophisticated attack. The story of David and Lily's journey had spread further than they ever imagined. A national news feature about Warrior Watch and Pause for Peace brought letters from across the country. Parents who'd lost service animals, veterans struggling with reintegration, communities seeking to bridge divides, all found hope in their story. David found Lily reading one such letter at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes. This family in Texas started a Buddy's Friends chapter after their daughter's service dog was killed. They helped 20 veterans this year. The ripple effect of their pain had become a wave of healing, touching lives they would never meet. David realized this was the true meaning of legacy, not monuments or awards, but the quiet multiplication of compassion. At school, Lily's program had become a model for the entire district. She found herself teaching teachers, her hard-won wisdom guiding adults who struggled to understand trauma's impact. Dr. Bennett often joked that Lily should be charging consultation fees. One afternoon, David returned from a Warrior Watch meeting to find Captain Richardson, now fully retired, having tea with Lily between the 2 trees in their backyard. I'm nominating you for the city's Citizen of the Year award, Richardson told David. David shook his head. The community changed itself. We just provided the framework. Don't be modest, Lily chided gently. You built the first bridge. In the end, they both received the award, the youngest and first father-daughter recipients in the city's history. At the ceremony, Lily spoke without notes, her voice clear and sure. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us become the seeds of the best things we do, she told the audience. The trick is to water those seeds with love, not anger. Afterward, Mr. Evans approached them, Ranger walking calmly at his side. Because of you both, I get to be someone my kids can be proud of again. That's a gift I can never repay. Driving home, the award sitting between them, David realized they had indeed come full circle. The world that seemed so hostile had revealed itself as full of potential allies, waiting only for someone to extend the first hand. That night, David dreamed of Anna. She stood between the 2 trees, smiling as she watched Lily play with the dogs. You've done well with our girl, she said, and in the dream, David knew it was true. He woke with a peace that settled deep in his bones. The work would continue, but the urgent, driving need had transformed into something sustainable, something that could last a lifetime. The peace lasted until 3 a.m., when David's phone buzzed with priority alert from the FBI. Decker's lawyer had just filed a motion, claiming he had information about other compromised officials that he would only share in exchange for immunity. The message was clear. Victor Decker wasn't finished with him yet, and he still had cards to play from his prison cell. 5 years after that terrible day on Elmwood Drive, David stood at the edge of the Warrior Watch National Conference, watching Lily, now a poised 18-year-old, deliver the keynote address to 2,000 people. Her topic, how our deepest wounds become our greatest strengths. When I was 12, she told a rapt audience, I learned that some people will hurt you simply for existing in a space they think you don't belong. But I also learned that many more people will help you rebuild what was broken. David listened as his daughters shared their story without flinching from the pain, but focusing on the redemption. She spoke of Buddy's legacy and the thousands of service animals now partner with veterans. She talked about the 38 Warrior Watch chapters operating nationwide. She mentioned Mark, now in college on psychology scholarship, and Mr. Evans, now the national program director. But the most important lesson, she concluded, is that healing isn't a destination. It's a relationship we build with ourselves and our community every day. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Watching from the wings, David felt not pride in the conventional sense, but something deeper, a sense of rightness, of a story that found its proper ending and new beginning simultaneously. Afterward, a young woman approached Lily, her service dog at her side. Your story inspired me to become a therapist. I start my master's program next month. The chain continued, unbroken. At home, little had changed and everything had changed. The same house held different people. Wiser, more peaceful, more complete. Zeus, now gray-muzzled, still slept at the foot of Lily's bed, while Stella maintained her puppyish energy despite her years. David's work had evolved into writing and consulting, his expertise sought by police departments and veteran organizations nationwide. The anger that once fueled him had long since transmuted into wisdom, the need for vengeance replaced by a commitment to prevention. One autumn afternoon, they received word that Walsh had died in prison. The news brought neither satisfaction nor sorrow, only a quiet acknowledgement that some stories end without redemption. David thought of Walsh's son, now an officer in another state, who had indeed contacted Warrior Watch during his training. The past had become just that, the past. A place to visit occasionally, but not to live. On Lily's last night before leaving for college, they sat on the porch swing where so many important conversations had occurred. Stella lay across their feet, while Zeus watched from a spot by the door. Are you worried? David asked. About being so far from home? Lily leaned against him the way she had as a child. I'm taking everything I learned here with me. And Zeus, of course. The dorm approved his accommodation. David smiled. Of course they did. They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell, the familiar sounds of their neighborhood settling around them. Children playing, dogs barking, the occasional car passing. The ordinary music of a life at peace. I used to worry, Lily said softly, that if I stopped being sad about Buddy and Mom, it would mean I didn't love them anymore. David waited, knowing she had more to say. But now I understand that carrying joy forward is the highest honor we can give them. It means their love was stronger than our loss. The simplicity and truth of the statement settled between them, a final piece falling into place. The next morning, David helped load Lily's car, Zeus watching with his usual calm dignity. When it came time to say goodbye, David found himself without words, all the lessons, all the wisdom, all the love distilled into a single, tight embrace. I love you, Daddy. Thank you for everything. Go show the world what healing looks like, he whispered. He stood watching until her car disappeared around the corner, Stella whining softly beside him. The house felt suddenly large and quiet, full of memories but empty of the presence that had given it meaning for so long. Then he felt a wet nose press against his hand, Zeus, who would stay behind, his steady gaze saying everything words could not. They were still a team, still had work to do. David looked at the 2 trees in the backyard, now strong and tall, their branches interweaving in the morning light. The dogwood and the cherry, Buddy and Anna, loss and love, all grown together into something beautiful, something enduring. His phone buzzed. A secure message from the Justice Department. Asterisk Decker's immunity hearing moved to tomorrow. He's claiming he has information about ongoing threats to the Chin family. That requires his immediate release. He's asking for you personally. Asterisk the past wasn't done with them yet. The first snow of winter found David sitting in Lily's empty room, Zeus's head in his lap. 3 months had passed since she left for college, and the silence still sometimes surprised him. But it was a different silence now. Not the hollow absence after Buddy's death, but the peaceful quiet of a chapter completed. Lily's updates came regularly. Photos of Zeus helping other students in the library, stories about her psychology classes, excited messages about the Buddy's Friends program she was starting on campus. She was flourishing, and watching her spread her wings brought David a deep, settled joy. That afternoon, a familiar car pulled into the driveway. Captain Richardson, now fully gray but still radiating authority. She found David in the backyard, clearing snow from around the 2 trees. "Always knew you'd make a good gardener," she said, her breath misting in the cold air. "Turns out the skills transfer," David replied. "Patience, timing, knowing when to intervene and when to let things grow." They stood together in the quiet yard, the snow muting the world around them. After a moment, Richardson said, "The city wants to make Warrior Watch a permanent institution. Funded endowment, the works." David nodded slowly. "It's time. The program should belong to the community now. That's what I told them." She handed him an envelope, "Which is why I need you to take this." Inside was an offer, director of a new National Center for Community Resilience, focusing on replicating their model nationwide. More money, more resources, more impact than he'd ever imagined. "Lily's almost done with her first semester," Richardson said before he could refuse. "The center is in Boston, near her campus. The timing, well, it feels like more than coincidence." That evening, David video called Lily. Her face filled the screen, glowing with happiness and purpose. Behind her, he could see her dorm room, photos of home on the wall, Zeus sleeping on his designated bed. When he told her about the offer, her smile widened. "Say yes, Daddy. It's time for our next adventure." The following months passed in a whirlwind of transition. The house that had been their sanctuary went on the market, though David insisted on one condition. The new owners must care for the 2 trees in the backyard. The realtor included it as a covenant in the contract. On their last day in Maple Creek, David and Lily walked through every room, remembering. The kitchen where they'd had so many difficult conversations. The living room where David had held Lily as she sobbed for Buddy. The porch where healing had slowly taken root. "Are you sad to leave?" Lily asked. David looked around at the walls that had witnessed their transformation. "This house gave us what we needed when we needed it. Now it's time to let it shelter another family." They saved the backyard for last. The 2 trees stood bare against a winter sky, their branches tracing delicate patterns against the clouds. Buddy's dogwood, Anna's cherry, living memorials that would continue growing long after they were gone. Lily placed a hand on each trunk. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." The drive to Boston felt like both an ending and a beginning. Stella slept in the back seat, while Zeus watched the landscape pass with his usual calm observation. David glanced at his daughter in the passenger seat, her face turned toward the future, and felt the circle complete. Their new home waited near the university, a condo with space for visiting, for growing, for whatever came next. That night, as they unpacked boxes, Lily found the photo album from their first year in Maple Creek. "Look how young we were," she said, pointing at a picture of herself at 12, Buddy standing protectively beside her. David studied the image, the pain in their eyes, the uncertainty in their posture. "We've come a long way." "We have," Lily agreed. "But you know what? I wouldn't change our journey. The hard parts made us who we are." The truth of her words settled in the new space, blessing it with the wisdom earned through struggle. The next morning, David stood at the window of his new office at the Resilience Center, looking out at a city full of possibilities. Richardson had been right. The timing was perfect. The work here would build on everything they'd learned, reaching further than they'd ever imagined. His phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Asterisk first meeting of campus buddies friends in 1 hour. Wish me luck. Asterisk. David smiled, typing his response. Asterisk, you don't need luck. You have experience. Asterisk. He looked at the photo on his new desk. Lily at 18, surrounded by their 2 dogs, the trees from their old backyard visible in the distance. The image captured everything important: love, loss, healing, and the unbreakable bond that carried them through. Some stories begin with tragedy, David reflected, but they don't have to end there. With courage, with compassion, with a decision to build rather than break, even the deepest wounds can become sources of strength. The world remained full of pain, but also of incredible resilience. And as David turned to greet his new team, he knew exactly what his first word would be. Let me tell you a story about my daughter and a dog named Buddy, and how sometimes our greatest beginnings emerge from our most difficult endings. If stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bonds Unspoken. Every click helps us share more incredible moments that celebrate the bond between humans and animals. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that reminds us what true loyalty feels like.